Hello everyone. Welcome back to another video. So in today's video we are going to teach you how you can build your own survival garden. The pandemic has left everyone shaking. The novel coronavirus has made everything a challenge. You no longer can go to a vegetable market, or your favorite restaurant, nor can you enjoy the delicious street food. So what can you do now? You have to survive, right? Don't worry, we are here for you. Without further ado, let's get started. And we have a bonus for you, so make sure you stay with us till the end. 1. Start with the basics by starting small. You will not be a successful survival gardener overnight. It takes seasons of gardening experience, foraging practice, knowledge of saving seeds and propagating trees, along with a good pinch of luck to make it all work. But you have to begin somewhere, right? Where is that? In the garden, in any size garden. As your skills grow, you can increase the size of the plot until it becomes one that meets all your survival requirements. If you are new to growing a garden and living a homesteading life closer to nature, everything will take practice. For starters, you will need the following things. 1. Selecting seeds. 2. Sowing seeds. 3. Saving seeds. 4. Growing herbs. 5. Planning the layout of the garden. 6. Harvesting at the right time. 7. Canning and preserving. 8. Raising animals. 9. Composting. 10. Vermicomposting. 2. Selecting seeds. You need to select the proper seeds in order to grow the plants, which later, will the main source for nutrition. So you should always choose open-pollinated seeds that allow you to save your own seeds. This ensures that you have stock for the following year, with enough for your family and more to trade if necessary. Remember that a survival garden is more than just a garden, it is your lifeline for when the rest of the world is falling apart. And you need to plan ahead for much more than you can imagine eating. It is always beneficial to have excess crops. Crops may fail due to drought or disease, or any other reason under the sun, like non-viable seeds, lack of nutrients in the soil, insect damage, etc., and for these reasons you need to think diversely. Plant both perennials and annuals. Have some trees, canes and bushes for fruit. Grow herbs. Think about incorporating both sun and shade-loving plants that fit nicely into your landscape. Grow a little bit of everything, so that your basic nutritional requirements are covered in an exciting way, day after day. 3. How big does a survival garden need to be? Before thinking about the size of your garden, you should consider the following factors, like how many people you will be feeding, and don't forget to count children and adults. What kind of crops you will be growing. What kind and quality of soil you have, as well as what climate you live in / your gardening expertise and familiarity with succession planting. How much time you have to devote to gardening and feeding your family. While we can't give exact numbers, it is safe to say that 1/4 acre is the minimum amount of land you will need for a survival garden. Depending on the size of your family and your vegetable preferences, you may even end up with a 2-acre survival garden. 4. What to plant in your survival garden. If you are going to be surviving on your own vegetable patch, you better be eating well. While winter squashes provide a great source of vitamins A and C, potassium, iron and manganese too, you probably don't want to waste precious growing space on them if they won't go down a treat. The same can be said for every vegetable. Take Brussels sprouts for instance, or beets. Some people adore them, others loathe a single meal where they are present in a dish. Let alone planning for an overabundance of them. If you are going to be spending time tending to your food, you better enjoy dining on it too. We'll go over nutrition needs in a moment, but the easiest way to decide what to plant in your survival garden is to grow the foods that you would normally buy from the store. Then, as your gardening expertise grows, add new vegetables in your survival garden such as okra, asparagus and bok choy. 5. Survival gardening and nutrition. Before planting a survival garden, it is necessary to estimate your optimal nutrition requirements. This, of course, will just be an approximation, as having a survival garden also assumes that you have other foods stored for times of absolute need: canned foods, dried and smoked meats, aged cheeses, grains, etc. The vegetables growing in your survival garden will often be a supplement to what you already have on hand. Many prepping websites will have figures on how much you should stock up on for a determined period of time. A survival garden is here to always help see you through difficult times. In any case, you will want to make sure that certain nutritional requirements of your family are covered. For example, fats. If you don't have live animals like goats, pigs, ducks, geese, turkeys or chickens on your farm, or a freezer stocked full of locally raised and butchered meat, you'll have to obtain fats from what you can grow in the garden instead. Nuts such as chestnuts, pecans, walnuts and hazelnuts are wonderful sources of plant-based fats, though you will need to plan several years ahead for your first harvest. In the meantime, try growing a faster crop, like hemp seeds, flax seeds, pumpkin seeds, squash seeds, sunflower seeds. All of the above are relatively easy to grow and are harvestable by hand, and the best part is, the storage is uncomplicated too. 3. Protein. In addition to fats and carbs, you must strike a balance with eating enough protein to maintain your muscles and vital energy throughout the day. Fava beans are just one inexpensive source of protein. Though you may be surprised to find that broccoli, cauliflower, spinach, artichokes, Brussels sprouts and asparagus are all rich in protein. Make space for them in your garden and reap the benefits. 6. Storing your survival garden crops. There are several ways to preserve and store your survival garden crops for the colder months when plants no longer grow. As with learning how to tend to a plethora of vegetables, you'll also have to invest plenty of energy in learning how to cook, preserve and store them for later use. 1. Preserving, freezing, dehydrating and canning. Survival gardening is about much more than planting and harvesting. It also encompasses how you preserve your garden crops. Freezing your vegetables is a common way to save food for the future. But without electricity or a backup generator on your side, there are perhaps better options for preserving food that have been around hundreds and thousands of years longer. Dehydrating can be done with the use of the sun in warmer climates, a dehydrator or oven in areas with less solar power. And of course, canning. The ultimate goal that every homesteader aspires for, to have a pantry full of homemade pickles, chutneys, jams and jellies. 2. Winter storage. We've already touched on this subject in crops that store well, now let's take it a thought further. After harvest you would better be prepared with how and where you are going to store your beautiful crops. Will it be in the root cellar? Of course. If you have one. Can you leave your root vegetables in the ground, covered with a thick layer of mulch? It just depends on your climate and location. Or do you live in a place that allows for year-round gardening of sorts? For example, can you extend your growing season in a greenhouse, or in a sunny area indoors? Once your crops are underway in the garden, sit down and plan it all out, how you are going to store everything you produce. This means thinking about stainless steel, glass, and ceramic containers too. 7. Potential challenges and limitations of growing a survival garden. A well-thought-out, designed and planted survival garden should be able to provide a year's worth of fresh vegetables for you and your family. That is in an ideal world. And an ideal world the world is not. You may choose to plant a survival garden for several reasons: unemployment or unpredictable future income, supply shortages, food insecurity, crop failures, disasters, etc. The list could go on. When times are tough, your first reaction should be to have shelter, water and food for your family, so that you can thrive even in times of scarcity. 8. Survival garden obstacles to overcome. A survival garden isn't all fun and games. It requires some serious work and a survivor mentality to pull it through. It helps if everyone in the family is on board, children too. There are plenty of activities to get kids involved with survival gardening, starting at planting, all the way through harvesting, preparing and eating the food. Along the way, you'll have to observe your survival garden and surroundings, keeping everything in good order, including your positive mindset. You will face many problems like failure. In a survival garden, failure is never an option. Practice, practice and practice some more, making sure to grow a diverse selection of crops each season. Gather knowledge and add to your homesteading skill set yearly. Limited resources, time and water are always the most prominent gardening challenges. Combat this by learning how to grow plants efficiently in your soil, by knowing what works and what doesn't, with less and less trial and error. Think about harvesting rainwater, planting more perennials and using deep mulch to keep the soil moist in times of limited access to water. Limited space. Food security is all about having access to land. The larger the patch you can claim as your own, the better. However, if you do have a small space, think vertically, use pots and containers for growing, learn all about succession planting and make the best use of what you have. (9) Protection. A survival garden is an asset of great value. Plan ahead to protect it, like protection from trespassers. When you create a backyard food forest, it comes with a natural form of protection. The fruits, nuts, and vegetables ripen at different times. If someone comes into my yard today, they will only be attracted to what is ripe and ready to eat. Next week I will have new produce to harvest. We have fenced our property and have strategically planted thorny bushes on the perimeter to deter trespassers. I recognize that this is not at all foolproof, but it clearly signals they are not welcome. We always produce more food than we can eat. Part of our plan includes sharing with those in need. John is generous, but also believes that people should work for what they get, whenever possible. He will loan them a pair of gloves and let them work to earn their food. I am more apt to just invite them to join us for dinner. Protection from critters. A skunk is a dangerous critter to have around chickens. Squirrels, gophers, and moles are not only a nuisance but can destroy crops and plants. Plan for ways to control the population and rid them from your property. Protection from insects. We discovered how dangerous insects can be when our garden was destroyed by a crazy invasion of grasshoppers. No one in our little town could successfully grow a garden that year. Plan to control insects with whatever methods you are comfortable. I chose an organic approach because it is sustainable. I plant flowers and herbs that attract predatory insects. We have had guinea hens that do a great job of controlling the insects. However, 10. Benefits of foundational perennial plants. The foundation of a reliable survival garden is perennial plants. Perennials are plants that grow back every year and do not need to be replanted. They just emerge every spring full of life and ready to produce food without any input from you. Perennials, especially trees and shrubs, have extensive root systems that enable them to be more drought tolerant and can produce fruit even under harsh conditions once they are established. Trees take advantage of vertical space and can produce large amounts of fruit with a smaller footprint than a traditional vegetable garden. Ideal perennial plants to include in your survival garden. Nut trees tend to take up more space and may need to double as a shade tree in your landscape. A single mature nut tree can provide an entire family with a good amount of protein and fat in a form that is easy to store. You may want to consider planting a walnut, almond, pecan, hazelnut or a chestnut tree today. Nut trees take many years to establish. Fruit trees are a great option because they produce a significant amount of produce in a small space. Select specific varieties that are proven to grow well in your area. Apple, pear, plum, apricot, peach, cherry, and fig may be good options to consider. These fruits can easily be dried to preserve the fruit. If you can only choose one, plant an apple tree. Apples are versatile, highly nutritious, and produce dependable crops. Berry bushes and vines can be strategically landscaped into your yard. They are uniquely beautiful, are noisy and not neighbor-friendly. These are the 10 ways you can build your own survival garden, and now as promised, here's your bonus. We designed our own survival garden around vegetables that are easy to grow and that store well. Candidates for his garden had to provide the most calories and nutrition for the least amount of effort. They must be easy to save seeds from and require minimal water. The final requirements are that they should be disease and pest-free without chemicals. Our final list of vegetables for his survival garden include butternut squash, golden Yukon potatoes, orange carrots, tomatoes, sweet 100 and sun-sugared cherry tomatoes for eating as well as canning tomatoes, Detroit red beets, Swiss chard, kale, blue curled and red winter, spinach, bush beans, sugar snap peas, yellow crookneck and zucchini squash, onions, garlic. In addition to these annual vegetables, we have fruit trees, berries, grapes, and perennial herbs interspersed in their landscape. That's it for today's video, guys. I hope you like it, and if you did, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.